In the summer of 2004, a 24-year-old woman named Margaret Bradley walked down into the Grand Canyon on a bright Thursday morning. She was one of the fittest people on the trail that day. She had run the Boston Marathon that spring in just over 3 hours. She trained 90 miles a week. She was a first-year medical student, an all-American runner, a body built to go the distance. Within 2 days, she was dead. Not from a fall, not from the edge that every railing and every warning sign is built to protect. She died of dehydration. On a trail she was more than strong enough to walk, with the canyon baking her from the inside out. This was not a freak accident. At the Grand Canyon, it is closer to a pattern. Roughly 5 million people come here every year. They come for one of the most photographed views on the planet. Since the park opened in 1919, more than 900 of them have died. And most of them did not die the way you think. Ask anyone what kills people at the Grand Canyon, and they point at the edge, the sheer drop, the crumbling rim, the tourist leaning out for one more photo. But the falls are not the top of the list. On average, only 2 or 3 people a year go over the rim. The thing that kills the most people here is quieter. It is already inside your body before you ever feel it arrive. The Grand Canyon does not push you. It waits for you to walk down on your own. To understand how a national park with paved overlooks and a gift shop and a shuttle bus becomes a place that kills the strong, you have to understand what you are actually standing on when you stand at the rim. The Colorado River carved this canyon over millions of years. It cut down through layer after layer of rock until it reached stone nearly 2 billion years old at the bottom. What it left behind is a gorge 270 miles long, in places 18 miles across and roughly a mile deep. Numbers like that are hard to feel. So feel this one instead. The south rim, where most people stand, sits around 7,000 feet above sea level. The river at the bottom sits near 2,400 feet. Between you and the water is almost a vertical mile of desert. That single fact is what makes this place lethal, because the Grand Canyon is a mountain in reverse. Think about how a mountain works. You climb up first while you are fresh and strong. You reach the top. Then you come down while you are tired, and gravity does most of the work. Your hardest effort and your best energy line up. Here it is flipped. Everything is upside down. You start at the top, the trail goes down, you descend into the canyon while you are fresh in the cool of the morning, with gravity pulling you along and the view opening up beneath you. It feels wonderful, it feels easy, and every step down is a step you will have to take back up later in the worst heat of the day when you have the least left to give. The canyon does not rise to meet you, it drops away and waits. And as you drop, it gets hotter, not a little hotter. For every 1,000 feet you descend, the temperature climbs by roughly 5.5 degrees. Do that math over a mile of descent, and the bottom of the canyon runs 20 to 25 degrees hotter than the rim you left. A pleasant 85-degree morning at the trailhead becomes 110 at the river. In July and August, the canyon floor regularly tops 120 degrees. In direct sun, off the bare rock, it can feel 15 to 20 degrees hotter still. The rock does not just sit in the heat, It holds it. It radiates it back at you from the walls, from the ground, from every red surface around you. There is almost no shade. There is no breeze down in the inner canyon in the dead of summer. You are walking inside an oven made of stone, and the oven is a mile deep. There is not one Grand Canyon. There are three, stacked on top of each other, and they do not share a climate. Up on the rim, it can be mild, even cool, with pine trees and snow in winter. Halfway down, it is high desert. At the bottom, along the river, it is one of the hottest places in the country. You can start your morning in 60-degree air at the top and be standing in 110 by early afternoon, having never left the same trail. And down there, the things that would save you on the surface are gone. There is no reliable shade. There is no cell signal through most of the canyon. There is no gas station, no store, no cold drink, no easy way out. The water you carried in is the water you have. When it runs out, you are relying on a handful of pumped water stations that can fail and do fail in a place where a few hours without water in that heat is not discomfort, it is a countdown. The canyon keeps a second weapon in reserve. For the few days a year it rains. In monsoon season, the storms build fast, and water that fell miles away comes tearing down narrow side canyons with no warning, turning a dry wash into a wall of moving mud and rock in seconds. But the flood is rare. The heat is not. The heat is here every single summer day, patient, radiating, waiting for someone to walk too far into it. And everything about this place is built to make you feel safe enough to do exactly that. You do not arrive at some remote, obviously deadly wilderness. You arrive at a village. There is a lodge. There is a shuttle bus. There are families with strollers at the overlook, and mule trains carrying tourists down the same trail, plodding and calm. Down at the bottom, there is even a ranch with beds and cold lemonade. It all reads as tame. It all whispers that this is a managed, ticketed, gentle experience, and that whatever waits below, other people have already handled it. That impression is the most dangerous thing in the park. The mules are bred and trained for it and turned back on schedule. The families at the railing are not walking a vertical mile down into the heat. And the calm of the rim tells you nothing about the state you will be in at 2 in the afternoon, 3,000 feet down, when the trail turns to face the sun and points straight back up. Rangers here have a saying, down is optional, up is mandatory. That is the whole trap in 5 words. Going down is a choice, coming back up is not. And the people who die at the Grand Canyon are almost never the ones who turned around early. They are the ones who felt strong on the way down, went a little farther, and then had to climb out of a furnace with nothing left in the tank. And that climb is not a figure of speech. From the river back up to the south rim is more than 4,000 feet of elevation gain, straight up out of the earth. That is like climbing the stairwell of a building more than 3 times the height of the Empire State Building, except the stairs are broken rock and the stairwell is 120 degrees. Every person in this story had a moment where they could have turned around and did not. That is not stupidity. It is how the canyon works on a human mind. Going down feels like progress because it is easy and the view keeps getting bigger. Turning around feels like failure, like quitting with the goal in sight. The river, or the next overlook is always just a little farther, and the walk down is always just a little easier than it should be. So people spend a little more. They go a little deeper. They promise themselves they will rest at the bottom and feel fine for the climb. By the time the trail tells the truth, they are hours below the rim with a body that has already begun to fail, and the only way out is the hardest thing they have ever physically done. Walk it through in your head. You start in the morning feeling great. The air is cool, the trail slopes gently away in front of you, you are drinking water, you are moving well, the switchbacks fall away behind you one after another. An hour in, you feel strong. 2 hours in, you tell yourself you will just go to the next viewpoint, then the creek, then maybe the river because it is right there, and the walking is so easy. Each of those choices feels small. Each one is another step you will have to earn back. Then you turn around, and the canyon you walk down is not the canyon you have to climb. The sun is high now. It is the middle of the day, the 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon window, when rangers beg people not to be on the trail. Every step is uphill. Your legs are already spent from the descent. Your water is low or gone, and your body, which has been sweating hard for hours, is quietly losing a fight you did not know it had started. Here is what that fight looks like from the inside. The first signs feel like nothing. A little tired, a little thirsty, a dull headache. That is the danger. Those symptoms are so ordinary that you push through them, because pushing through tiredness is what you have always done. But this is not ordinary tiredness. Your core temperature is climbing. Your body is taking on heat faster than it can shed it. That is heat exhaustion sliding toward heat stroke. And once it tips fast. The red flag is not in your legs, it is in your head. Confusion, slurred words, stumbling, acting strange, making bad decisions, wandering off the trail. Your brain overheats before your body quits, which means the person least able to understand that they are dying is the person it is happening to. By the time someone reaches that stage, they often cannot save themselves. And the people around them do not always understand what they are watching until it is too late. There is a crueler version of this too. Some hikers drink so much water, so afraid of dehydration, that they flush the salt out of their own blood. Their sodium crashes to a dangerous low. It is called hyponatremia, and the early symptoms look almost exactly like dehydration, so they drink even more. The thing they are doing to stay safe becomes the thing that kills them. The canyon offers you a dozen ways to die and disguises most of them as simply being tired. And once it has you, help is not close. Heat stroke has one real treatment, and that treatment is cooling, fast. But you are at the bottom of a mile-deep canyon with no shade, no cold water, and air that is hotter than your own blood. There is nothing down there to cool you with. A rescue means someone has to reach you, on foot or by air, and then get you up and out. In extreme heat, the helicopters cannot always fly. Thin, hot air robs the rotors of lift, and the same conditions that are killing you are the conditions that keep the aircraft on the ground. You may be told plainly that no one is coming for a while, and that you need to save yourself. That is why this park does something most places do not. It employs people whose entire job is to walk down the trail and stop you before you kill yourself. Preventive search and rescue. They stand at the hard points on the busiest trails, watching for the hiker who is going too far, too fast, too late in the day, and they try to talk them into turning around. Even with all of that, more than 250 people are rescued from this canyon every single year, pulled off the trail, dehydrated, disoriented, unable to take one more step up. Those are the lucky ones, the ones who got a call out in time, the ones the heat had not yet finished. Which brings us back to Margaret Bradley. She and a companion set out from the Grandview trailhead on the South Rim that Thursday morning, planning a long run down toward the river and back. Nearly 30 miles in the July heat. For a runner of her caliber, on paper, it looked doable. The park has one warning it repeats more than any other, in bold at every trailhead. Do not try to hike from the rim to the river and back in a single day. Not because rangers doubt your fitness, because they have counted the bodies of people who were certain they were the exception. Margaret was attempting a version of exactly that. Somewhere out on the trail, in temperatures that reached 105 degrees, they ran out of water. They became separated. Her companion turned back toward the rim, believing she had gone on ahead. When Margaret did not meet her family in Flagstaff as planned, they reported her missing. Rangers began searching. 2 days after she walked down into the canyon, they found her body in a drainage called cremation below the Tonto Trail. The autopsy was simple: dehydration, accidental. Sit with what that means. The most conditioned athlete on that trail, a woman who had run a marathon at race pace on a brutal day just months before, was the one the canyon took. Not because she was weak, because she went too far down, ran out of water, and could not climb back up in time. The Grand Canyon does not care about your resume. It does not care how many marathons you have finished. It measures you by one thing: how far down you went and whether you can get back out before the heat finishes the job. She was not the last to attempt that exact hike, and not the last to die on it. In May of 2023, a 36-year-old woman from Westfield, Indiana, tried the same thing, rim to river and back in one day. She made it partway back up before she collapsed near the 3-mile rest house, close enough to the top that most hikers think of that stretch as the easy part. She died on the trail the park had begged her not to attempt. And you do not even have to be aiming for the river. In July of 2023, a 57-year-old woman collapsed during an 8-mile hike out in Tuweep, a remote corner of the park far from the crowded trails, where the temperature was above 100 degrees and no help was near. She was nowhere close to the bottom. The heat does not require the full mile. It only requires you, exposed at the wrong hour, a little too far from water. If you think these are stories from a distant, less careful era, listen to what happened in June of 2026. An 18-year-old was hiking the Bright Angel Trail with his father. Bright Angel is the most popular trail in the park, the one that starts right at the village, 8 miles down to the river, 4,500 feet of descent. It is beautiful. It is well maintained. It is also, in summer, a funnel that pours you down into triple-digit heat a mile below the rim. On the way back up, somewhere below Havasupai Gardens, the teenager began showing signs of heat illness. The temperature that day was around 109 degrees. His father did the right things. He called for help on a satellite device. Then he left his son resting on the trail and went ahead to find a ranger. When he came back, his son was gone. Rangers found the young man about 30 feet below the trail near Garden Creek. In the grip of heat stroke, a person loses their balance, their coordination, their sense of where they are. He had come off the trail. He was still alive when they reached him. They flew him out by helicopter. He died shortly after. A father took his son to a national park and walked out of it alone. That is the same canyon, the same trail, the same mechanism that killed Margaret Bradley more than 20 years later, and between them are hundreds of others. There was Scott Sims, 69 years old, from Austin, Texas. He was not reckless. He had a reservation for an overnight stay at Phantom Ranch at the bottom of the canyon, which means he had planned, he had booked. He had done this the way you are supposed to. On the 29th of June, 2024, he was making his way along the river trail down near the two bridges that cross the Colorado in heat that can top 120 degrees in the shade. He became semi-conscious, then unresponsive. Bystanders started CPR. Paramedics came up from Phantom Ranch. None of it was enough. Experience did not save him. Planning did not save him. The canyon does not grade on effort. Or take Giancarlo Mayor Valencia, 22 years old, from Scottsville, New York. He was not a day tripper who wandered in unprepared. He was on day 2 of a multi-day backpacking trip, carrying his own gear, doing the harder, more committed version of the canyon. Heat-related illness took him anyway. Young, fit enough to shoulder a pack for days, and still the canyon found the edge of what his body could take. Youth does not save you. Age does not save you. A pack full of the right gear does not save you. The one thing that saves you is not being out there in the heat of the day. And the canyon is very good at convincing people that they are the exception. And then there is the case that says everything about how this place kills. Just over a week after Scott Sims, on the 7th of July, 2024, a 50-year-old man from San Angelo, Texas, was climbing out of the canyon on the Bright Angel Trail after an overnight stay below the rim. He was almost done. He was almost home. He collapsed 100 feet below the trailhead. 100 feet, not 100 feet down a 1,000-foot descent, 100 feet from the top, from the parking lot, from his car. He had climbed nearly the entire way out of a mile-deep canyon, and the heat took him within sight of the finish. That is the signature of this place. It lets you believe you are going to make it. It lets you get close. The trail near the top is not even steep, and the rim is right there. And you can see the trees and the shuttle stop and the people in clean clothes holding cold drinks. That is exactly where it catches people. Not at the scary edge, not on some technical cliff, on an easy stretch of trail, a stone's throw from safety, when the body finally runs out of margin. No shade to duck into, no breeze to cool down in, no quick way down for the rescuers, and no quick way up for you. None of these were strange years. In that one stretch of summer, 2024, the canyon killed 3 hikers in 3 weeks. Scott Sims on the 29th of June, the man from San Angelo on the 7th of July, and in between them, on the 16th of June, a 41-year-old man was found unconscious on the Bright Angel Trail and could not be revived either. 3 people, 3 weeks, 1 trail system. To the people who work here, that is not a catastrophe. That is a summer. That is, more or less, a Tuesday. And it is no longer only a July problem. The park now sees heat deaths creeping into spring and fall because those are the seasons people let their guard down. They do not expect a March or an October hike to be dangerous, so they carry less water and they plan for the middle of the day, and they walk into a canyon floor that is every bit as hot as peak summer used to be. The trap has widened. The calendar no longer warns you. Look at who these people are. A 24-year-old elite runner, a 36-year-old on a day hike, an 18-year-old with his whole life ahead of him, a 69-year-old who did everything by the book, a 22-year-old backpacker, a 50-year-old 100 feet from his car. Different ages, different fitness, different levels of preparation. The canyon killed all of them the same way. Because the danger here was never really the drop. The overlooks have railings. The dangerous edges have signs. The park has spent a century warning people about the fall, and the fall, on average, takes 2 or 3 lives a year. The heat and the exhaustion and the long climb out with an empty bottle take far more. And they do it to people who never went near the edge at all. The Grand Canyon is not cruel. Cruelty requires intent. It is simply indifferent on a scale that is hard to hold in your mind. It was here for millions of years before you drove up. It will be here for millions after. It does not know you came for a nice hike. It does not adjust for your plans, your fitness, your reservation at the bottom. It just holds the heat and drops away beneath your feet and waits to see how far down you will go. So picture yourself back at the top on that cool, bright morning at the head of the trail. The view is unbelievable. The path in front of you slopes gently down and disappears into the most beautiful hole in the earth. Every instinct says, go. It feels like the easiest walk of your life. That feeling is the trap. That is the exact moment the canyon has you, because the walk down will feel effortless, and effortless is the lie. Down is optional, up is mandatory, and the farther that easy trail carries you into the canyon, the more of yourself you will have to spend in the heat of the day to climb back out to the person you were this morning. Margaret Bradley walked down into the Grand Canyon on a bright Thursday, one of the strongest people on the mountain. She never walked back out. The distance between the day she was born and the day the canyon took her was 24 years. That is the number that should stay with you. Not the mile of depth, not the 120 degrees. The small, terrible gap between 2 dates. For a young woman who did everything right, except believe that a place this beautiful could be this patient and this final. Today, along one of the canyon's busiest trails, the park keeps a sign. It carries her photograph. It tells hikers who she was, how strong she was, and what happened to her, so that a stranger walking down past it might stop and reconsider how far they are about to go. The sign ends with one line: Margaret Bradley did not have to die. None of them did. That is the hardest part of all of it. Every name in this story was a preventable death. Every one of them was a person who simply believed that a beautiful place could not also be a patient one. They were not fools. They are you on a good day at the top of an easy trail with a full bottle of water and a plan that makes perfect sense. The canyon does not need you to make a mistake. It only needs you to go a little too far down, and then it lets the heat and the climb and the mile of desert between you and your car do the rest.